The Nexari had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 cycles, their crystalline ships cutting through the void with the precision of surgical instruments. Their empire spanned 47 systems, each one carefully catalogued and administered with the cold efficiency that had made them the dominant force among the civilized species. Ambassador Zex Thul stood before the great viewing wall of the orbital station, watching as another world burned below. The Croathi swarm had consumed 17 planets in the past lunar cycle, their biomechanical horrors spreading like a plague across the Outer Rim territories. What had begun as a simple border skirmish had escalated into an existential threat that even the mighty Nexari fleet could not contain. The 7th Fleet reports total casualties at Kepler 442, announced Subcommander Velmar, her voice trembling despite her efforts to maintain composure. The swarm's adaptation rate exceeds all projections. They're consuming our technology faster than we can deploy countermeasures. Zex Thul's 4 eyes dimmed with defeat. The Nexari had faced rebellions before, pirate incursions, even the occasional rogue AI outbreak. But the Croathi were different. They learned, adapted, and evolved with each engagement. Worse yet, they consumed everything: organic matter, metals, energy, leaving nothing but barren rock in their wake. "Send word to the Council," Zex Thul commanded. "Initiate Protocol Omega-7. Velmar's mandibles clicked in shock. Protocol Omega-7 was the emergency broadcast, a galaxy-wide distress signal that would reach every sentient species within 100 light-years. It was an admission of defeat, a plea for help from a civilization that had never needed assistance from lesser species. The broadcast went out on all frequencies, translated into 600 languages. "This is the Nexari Coalition. We face extinction. Any species capable of military assistance, please respond. Coordinates attached. Payment negotiable." For 3 cycles, only silence answered their call. The Benerathi were too few in number. The Silthari had already fled, beyond the galactic rim. The Quantum Collective offered only philosophical platitudes about the nature of existence and suffering. Then, from a small yellow star in an unremarkable spiral arm, came a response. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. Our fleet is 2 days out. Hold position." The Nexari had barely registered the species called humans in their galactic surveys. Sol 3 was classified as a death world, a planet so hostile that complex life should have been impossible. The atmosphere was poison to most species, the gravity crushingly strong, and the weather patterns chaotically violent. Most civilized races avoided such worlds entirely. When the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace, Zex Thul questioned whether the distress call had been a mistake. The ships were crude by Nexari standards, metal alloys instead of grown crystal, chemical propulsion instead of exotic matter drives. They looked like something a primitive species might cobble together from scavenged materials. Captain Chen's image appeared on the communication screen. She was bipedal, covered in what appeared to be protective synthetic skin, with 2 forward-facing eyes that held an unsettling intensity. Most disturbing of all, she was smiling, showing rows of sharp, white teeth. "Ambassador Zex Thul," Chen said, her translator struggling with the alien phonemes. "We understand you have a pest problem." Before Zex Thul could respond, proximity alarms screamed across the station. A Croathi hive ship, the size of a small moon, had just emerged from subspace. Its biomechanical surface writhed with weapon pods and spawning chambers. Within minutes, it would release millions of drone fighters. "Human vessels, retreat immediately," Zex Thul transmitted urgently. "Your technology is insufficient." "Negative, Ambassador," Chen interrupted. "We've got this." The human fleet didn't retreat. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the Croathi vessel, their crude engines burning bright against the void. The lead ship, Chen's vessel, began broadcasting something the Nexari's computers couldn't quite classify. It seemed to be music. The primitive sound waves resonated with harmonics that made Zexthul's sensory organs ache. The first wave of Croathi drones swarmed toward the human fleet like angry insects. The humans opened fire, not with elegant energy beams or exotic particle weapons, but with crude projectiles, metal slugs fired at relativistic speeds, nuclear warheads that painted space with radioactive fire, and stranger things that defied classification. What happened next violated every principle of civilized warfare the Nexari understood. The humans didn't retreat when damaged. They didn't surrender when outnumbered. When one of their ships was boarded by Croathi warriors, instead of falling silent as expected, the crew began broadcasting what could only be described as defiant laughter mixed with explosive sounds. "These Deathworlders are insane," whispered Velmar. The tide of battle shifted when Chen's ship rammed directly into the Croathi hive vessel's spawning chamber. The impact should have destroyed both craft, but somehow the human ship emerged. From the explosion, scarred but functional, trailing atmosphere and debris. "That's for Kepler 442, Chen's voice crackled across the comm. "Now let's finish this." What the humans did next would be debated in Nexari military academies for generations. They didn't just fight the Croathi, they hunted them. When the biomechanical horrors tried to adapt to human weapons, the humans switched tactics with fluid creativity. They used gravity wells as weapons, turned asteroid fields into projectile storms, and somehow convinced a gas giant's magnetic field to generate focused electromagnetic pulses. But it was their ground assault that truly revealed the nature of Deathworlders. When Croathi ground forces established a beachhead on the station's lower levels, consuming everything in their path, the humans didn't send robots or drones. They came themselves, encased in powered armor that looked like mechanized nightmares, carrying weapons that seemed designed by beings intimately familiar with violence. They fought in the station's corridors with a ferocity that made the Croathi adaptation algorithms malfunction. Every time the biomechanical creatures thought they understood human tactics, the humans would do something impossible: sacrifice themselves to save strangers, fight more fiercely when wounded, or laugh while facing certain death. The battle ended when Captain Chen, her armor breached and her life support failing, manually detonated the human fleet's experimental weapon inside the Croathi hive mind nexus. The explosion consumed the entire enemy vessel and sent cascading failures through every Croathi unit in the system. As Chen's life signs faded, her final transmission reached the Nexari command center. "Tell the galaxy, Earth keeps its promises." In the aftermath, as rescue ships pulled human survivors from the wreckage, Ambassador Zexthul stood again before the great viewing wall. The Croathi threat was ended, but something had fundamentally changed in the galaxy's power structure. "Ambassador," Velmar approached cautiously, "the humans are requesting formal diplomatic contact. They want to establish an embassy." Zexthul's 4 eyes focused on the small blue world visible in the distance. Sol 3, the death world that had spawned these impossible beings. The Nexari had ruled through technological superiority and cold logic. But the humans had something else, something that couldn't be quantified or replicated. They had the capacity to stare into the abyss and laugh. "Grant their request," Zexthul commanded, "and make sure our xenobiologists study everything we can about Death World evolution. I suspect we've just witnessed the rise of the galaxy's new guardians." The humans had arrived, and the stars would never be the same.